Thanks, Christine, for having me. I'm Ali Hosseini, CEO of SenRa. We're a IoT LoRaWAN network operator in India. We've been deploying network for over 3 years now. We started in the Delhi region, deploying our first gateway, I think, in October of 2017. And now we've got infrastructure in over 67 cities across India. We are targeting 100 cities by the end of this year to kind of sync up with India's smart city mission targets that they had. So we're getting good progress and traction there. My journey, so actually it's a funny story. I was a lot in the software-based quality assurance, software testing side. I had a consulting business where we were doing mobile app development for companies. I attended a conference based on cloud and big data, and there was one speaker that talked about IoT. And when I heard it, I was like, wow, this looks like a really amazing market opportunity. I'm interested. I want to get more involved in the industry. And then I started looking for companies that might want to leverage my services as a consultant to try to penetrate the market and understand more about it. I think around 2016, I met Senet CEO on a plane at the time, and we were just chit-chatting what you guys do and what do we do, and I somehow sold him on my services, and he brought me on as a contracted sales rep to help expand their business internationally. So Senet took me on, and we had an amazing experience. I got to travel around the world. I got to be a part of the LoRa Alliance for the first time in 2016, and started to understand the ecosystem players, what LoRaWAN was, how it all works. And then I started to generate my own investments, ideas of kind of replicating what Senet does in the US in India, and took that leap of faith in 2017. Where I had enough funding supporting the initiative that I wanted to do, and I just went for it. So I uprooted my entire family, my wife and 2 children, and we got on a plane and flew over to India and set our roots there and started deploying infrastructure. A lot of people thought I might have been crazy, but it's turned out to be a good decision for us.
Cool. And just because a lot of people won't know, so you did a webinar yesterday, about the future of LoRa in India, and you've talked about their kind of smart city strategy. Could you just explain what the objectives there, what India is trying to do with deploying of these?
Sure. So India has a Make in India initiative. That's one effort program that they've put in place to try to generate more manufacturing in the country instead of outsourcing a lot of hardware. On top of that, they've got a Digital India program where they're trying to digitalize a lot of their infrastructure, e-governance systems and those kind of things, make things easy for citizens to access. And then the third piece that they came out with was a program called the Smart Cities Mission, where they spent billions of dollars in funding the local states and cities to initiate this type of technology, smart city implementations that take place. And it's been going on for about 5-6 years now. When I assessed the markets around the world, IoT had been around a little bit in India, but it hadn't really hit. And when these initiatives came out, I thought it was an amazing greenfield opportunity from a market perspective. So LoRaWAN has really started to pick up over the last couple of years in India. Tata Communications was actually there before us, about 6 months to a year prior to us launching our company. But the education was still really not there. A lot of people didn't know what LoRaWAN was. And so between 2017 and 18, it was a lot of teaching. And what is LPWAN? What is IoT? What is LoRaWAN? And then what we started to see as the ecosystem started to grow in 2019, there was a lot of pilots and POCs that were starting to get executed. And now, right before the coronavirus pandemic, we thought that 2020 was going to be the year for commercial deployments. all of that got kind of put on halt because of the lockdowns that took place. But now, as they start to ease restrictions, we're starting to see these projects to kick off. So I always predicted in 2020 was the year. Now it looks like it might actually be end of 2020 or 21. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and a lot of things taking place in smart cities, from waste management to smart parking. Street lights are really big. Anything in utilities, mainly water, are becoming anchor projects in India. You've got stuff going on in the ag space. Industrial IoT is really hot right now. So we're seeing a lot of traction there.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that context. I thought we'd just add that one in. So if we then take a big step back, and then kind of one question I'm asking everyone, because everybody has their own perspective, their own experience, and their own understanding. But if I ask you what IoT means to you, how do you answer that question?
I always say it's a symbiotic relationship between humans and machines. For me, when you really truly get the synchronized communication without the thought of action, you've achieved pure IoT. We've got a long way to go from that. You know, you've got AI, predictive analysis, machine learning, big data, all these things that people are throwing terminologies out. But to actually get them to work is a whole different level of challenges. We'll get there one day. I mean, I'm already hearing people talk about hyper-connected cities, and that's getting a little closer to that symbiotic relationship that you would see between citizens and government bodies and that kind of thing. But we're far away from it.
Okay, cool. And then if we kind of, and I like that, I haven't heard that before, the hyper-connected. It's good. I'll use that one.
Okay.
But you touched on it there about the ecosystem, you know, so you were helping set up the ecosystem in India, and a lot of it was education or explaining it, and all these people with their mixed understandings. You know, is IoT even an industry, or is it, you know, something that enables all the other industries? What's your perspective of the ecosystem from where you can see it? What does the IoT ecosystem look like, and what are some of the challenges it's facing today?
Well, first, a couple years ago, it was the device ecosystem that was lacking. You had the infrastructure, you had the network, but everyone was complaining there's not enough devices in the ecosystem. Now I think we're past that point. There's tons of devices out there. The next phase of challenges was the analytics. You know, okay, we got the network, we got the devices. Now, how do we make sense of all of this, and what kind of platforms are there that can make it easy to use? We're starting to see some really good analytics come out. We even launched our analytics platform last year for the India market, and now it's become a global product that we're trying to deploy everywhere. But now the next step is the integration. So you're going to start to see a lot of focus on the system integrators in that part of the LoRaWAN ecosystem, and in general in all of IoT. The people that are actually installing it, the people that are actually managing the projects on the ground, and what their needs are and how they do it easily. That's been the gap in the void. So we've been focusing pretty hard in our customer base to make the lives of our system integrators and end customers quite simple and plug and play almost. So that's the little bit of gap that I'm seeing in the Internet of Things right now. However, it's starting to come.
Okay, well, that's a nice segue to then my next question, which is really about, there's a lot of people trying to get started with IoT, but there's barriers, you know, whether it's lack of knowledge, whether it's capabilities, whether it's lack of understanding, whether it's just a completely new skills that are needed. So if I'm a company wanting to really kind of transform my business and start using data to make new decisions, if I'm, you know, a smart city who's wanting to get smarter, I'm a city who wants to become smart, what advice do you have for them getting started in order for them to have the highest chance of success?
Well, one is understanding what you need, right? So if you're a city, you need to really assess what are your gaps and challenges that you're having. If you're a startup trying to get into the industry, you need to understand those challenges that the end customer is having. So first you need to research. I did a lot of that when I launched this business in India to understand where the market opportunity is, where the need is. Once you get to that point, it's really taking time to figure out the how, right? So you understand your requirements, you understand the market, and then you got to put in a plan to really figure out, how am I going to execute this? Who is it that is going to benefit? And I always have a cause when I do something. It's not just financially driven. So are you motivated by the Internet of Things? What motivates you? Is it the fact that you're making a positive impact on the planet, sustainability? Are you trying to make it easier on citizens? I talked to a company in Chicago, CareBand. I love their story. They actually started in the IoT because of a small thing. Like the father of the CEO is a doctor, and he deals with patients that have amnesia and the elderly. And he thought that he could help. Really, it all came from a cause of trying to help and tracking where these elderly patients wander off to, because they were getting disappeared and they couldn't find them. And this ended up leading into a massive business for him. So, just looking at IoT from a financial perspective, I don't think is going to be enough. You need to have some passion behind it, understand what you're trying to do your research, do your planning. And then the final thing is find the funding, right? Even smart cities or cities, they have to have the funding to do these projects. If you're going to be a startup, you need to have investors backing you. I've talked to so many companies that try to do it all out of their, garages and with very minimal cash flow, and they end up getting stuck at the end of the day. So having a plan and being able to get some financial backing will really help you take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's quite a complex kind of solution or products. So yeah, you have to be thinking big. You have to be trying to do something at scale.
Right. And don't be scared to pivot. I mean, this COVID-19 thing is a massive example. I know you had interviewed Microshare, Charles, the other day. They're a perfect example of a company that pivoted when everyone else was stuck and not generating any revenue, and say, look, there's some need here, and we've got some solutions that we might be able to use. So don't be scared. If it's not working, pivot your strategy. Maybe you're not hitting the market real well. You assess the market incorrectly. Okay, try the manufacturing space, come up with a new solution. There's a lot of IoT needs out there. It's just where you are based in your region, what the need is in that region, and how you execute.
Nice advice. Okay, and then so we've talked a bit about the infrastructure and the technology behind that and what you do in the ecosystem. But if we kind of take a bit more of a human angle and talk more about the kind of soft skills or hard skills even that you need in order to succeed in IoT. So again, if you're kind of a company getting started or a company that's trying to found, you founded your own business, you had to put together your core competencies and core team. What advice do you have of leadership styles or approach or core competencies do you need to succeed in IoT?
Well, I like to get my hands dirty, and I always believe lead by example. So when I first had to find the team, I didn't really know what to look for unless I did it myself. So I knew what the work involved when I tried to install a gateway or try to tinker with a device. I knew what kind of skill sets I needed to find to help me, because I couldn't do everything. So by getting my hands dirty, I was able to figure out the quality of the skills that I'm looking for. And then once you get the team together, they lead by example, right? So if you're a lazy CEO that only crunches numbers and never really cares about the tech side in the tech industry, it's probably not going to work out too well for you. So when my staff started seeing me get down on my knees and installing a parking sensor into a parking lot and digging a hole, those type of things take you to the next level from a trust perspective and from a leader perspective. I don't try to micromanage too much on tasks. I like to kind of let them learn and figure out on their own, but make myself available if they have questions as a resource. In IoT, when you're trying to educate yourself, there's stuff out there online, and I believe you even mentioned it yourself. It might be real technical, but not too much on the business side or how the solution will work. And some of that is IP related. People, want to keep that intellectual property. So the only other way to get access to it is to know people, to have access to people that have done it. And I make myself readily available. Being part of the LoRa Alliance, I've got to meet tons of people in different industries, and we share ideas and bounce things off of each other. And that knowledge is much more valuable than what you can find on a Google search. So I think that also helps a team succeed as they go through their education. And what we're doing on the education side is we're actually taking this knowledge and setting up workshops with universities in India. We're doing these like 1 week courses, trainings, seminars to get the new techies educated on what we're doing, and hoping that when they graduate, they fall into the same space and ecosystem that we're doing.
Yeah, that's a nice kind of full circle there.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we then kind of then pivot again and look then at success. So success means so many different things to so many different people. But I like to ask this question because you're not only a man and a dad and a husband, but you're also a founder of a business who have employees, but you're also a thought leader in many ways with what you're doing with the LoRa Alliance, and kind of, trying to get a whole country up and moving in a whole new way of working.
Right.
And that's a lot of different kind of objectives or things there. So when I ask you the question, what does success mean to you as a person, and then what success is within IoT, how would you answer that question?
There's so many facets of success. Everyone immediately thinks of how much money you have in your bank account, but that doesn't satisfy my appetite. When I was training people on software working for Avnet 20 years ago, I felt a massive void that, I'm a person that has way more ability to give back to society, and this wasn't making me happy. So I'm actually in a very happy place now doing what I'm doing, because the changes we're seeing in the streets, the way citizens' lives are getting better. I mean, we did a small project tracking tigers. I would have never thought that I was doing something like that 10, 15 years ago. And we're saving lives by not only humans, but now wildlife. And I feel those are success moments for me. It may not be success all year round, and there's going to be some headaches and banging on your head on a wall and struggles and some downtimes, like during the coronavirus pandemic, where people are starting to feel a little bit of tension financially. But when you have those little bit of moments, I feel you've achieved success, because you're making an impact. You're creating something that didn't exist, solving a problem that couldn't be solved. Or at least improving that problem, solving techniques. So yeah, I think success is a lot of things, financially, obviously, but that's not the main driving factor. I think having an impact on society is way more success for me.
Cool. And then kind of just anything that you could say, because kind of, I think, I just want to ask you this one specifically, because again, the LoRa Alliance webinar that you did was about the future of kind of LoRaWAN in India. And I just feel that maybe you've got a broader perspective than some of the people who are delivering an individual solution, perhaps. So just kind of, what would you say would be success in 5 years' time, and even within the India market specifically, about kind of where that future of IoT is going?
Right. So the interoperability, the seamless connectivity, as I kind of mentioned earlier, between devices and humans. But if you look at like an Earth or a planet perspective, in India, there's a lot of toxins in the environment, from air pollution to waste buildup to water qualities and those kind of things. And we're seeing very small impact right now with IoT. It's not making a massive impact, but I believe as the devices get installed, the solutions become made more available, the insights to the analytics and the actual return on investment, it starts to play out. you'll see these levels go down, you know, like the air will get cleaner, the water will get cleaner, the waste will get more managed and processed quicker. You know, those type of things will at the end of the day impact the quality of everyone's life and hopefully keep this planet around a little bit longer. So that's what I'm trying to see happen from a global aspect as well as an India aspect. And in the 5, 10, 15 years, I'm hoping that it may not be perfect, but it'll be a little bit better than the situation that we're in right now.
Cool. Thank you. I'll stop the recording there, but that was
Sure.
great. Thank you very much.
Yep.